Wake the fuck up. It's time to talk business. Jared Taylor, Matt Best, and Evan Hafer proudly present Blackhearted. Sponsored by BlackRifle Coffee Company and Arson Wave.
Well.
Gets you motivated, Jay, doesn't it?
I'm pumped.
It's funny.
It pumps you up.
It's funny because he said he thought he was blacklisted.
Who?
Jay.
From what?
I enjoyed him on the last podcast. It was Drinking Bros, though.
Yeah, Drinking
I had
Bros
fun.
is different. So.
It's yeah,
They needed a least funny guy in the building.
but you're like the mastermind on this
Yeah,
podcast.
this is like, so for those of you that don't know who we're talking to, this is Jayson Orvis. He is probably one of the most prominent figures in our business development or DNA in the last, at least mine, in the last 2.5 years since we've known one another, right, Jay? 2.5 years. Is that how long we've been?
Yep,
It's
I'm
been-
known as
it's
the
counting.
gray hair.
Mm-hmm.
the gray hair, the handsome gray hair. I'm going to put the handsome in there.
And before I launch into Jay's story, so there's a few things that people kind of need to know about our relationship. Jay's an extraordinary, successful person. He's probably one of the best people, and please take this the right way, which is he's probably one of the best people that I've known as far as individual character and ethics. And so he's kind of a 360-degree success, I guess you could classify that. And sharing the same space with a guy like Jay for an extended period of time, you can't help but just kind of up your game and be better. That's just the way things go.
Surround yourself with greatness.
Mm-hmm. But the first time I met Jay, Jay has a beautiful home with several hundred acres in Utah. And
I thought we classified anything over 40,000 square feet as a castle.
yeah, he has a castle. Yes, he has a castle, or just I was a little bit in awe, but really I was afraid that he was bringing us up just to hunt us. And
I remember
I
that
thought he was going to
conversation.
hunt us because I was like, dude, I think this guy might be looking to hunt some
Right.
some former
It's like iced
fucking
tea,
operator.
right? Like iced tea. It's all about survival.
Yeah, you walk in, there's just like little plates on the walls of like SF,
Yeah.
like guys that he shot and mounted their
It was
heads.
mostly SEALs before us, and then now it was.
Now he's like moving on. He took the easy prey first.
No, but you were
Right?
successful. You did a FID mission, so you didn't get killed. Now you're friends. It's perfect.
Yeah, and so now we're lucky enough. Jay's kind of, I shouldn't say kind of, he's mentored us for the last couple of
Absolutely.
years through Ready Man and BlackRifle. He's given us a lot of, even if it's just through osmosis, he's given us a lot of great information. So without further ado, Jay Orvis, why don't you give us your 3 to 5 minute bio, man?
Well, let's see. I built a series of businesses. I'm like a serial entrepreneur. I last count it was like 45 different businesses. Most of them crashed and burned, like spectacularly, and a few of them, a good number of them, were just like flatline. They just were paying me for my work, and then a couple of them went stratospheric and high order stratospheric, and then I ended up selling 3 or 4 of those all at once and retiring at 41. And since then, I've just been jerking around, hanging out with you guys, shooting guns and doing whatever sounds good.
That's the one thing that's nice about him is we know we could always call him when we want to have fun.
Well,
Yes.
no, but when he calls you, it's fun, but scary fun, because he's like, cool, we're going to go walk 11 miles with snowshoes. You can do it, right, pussy? And I'm like, yes, sir.
He doesn't call me with those things.
No.
He knows.
Well, because he knows I'm dumb enough
my
to do
rule, 0 to mountain, no go.
it. Zero to mountain.
So tell us kind of your history. You've told me, I love this story. It's extraordinarily fascinating to me because the company that you sold, you actually started working for them as an intern. Is that right?
Right.
In college. So
Yeah, so I was in college as my junior year, going to Brigham Young University, doing the
Nice.
Mormon thing. And I between my junior and senior year, I got into a company where I was just a frontline guy, and within a year or so, I'd worked my way up into where I was irreplaceable, and then with maybe a year after that, I was a partner. So the guy said, "Hey, well," I said, "Hey, either I can leave and do my own thing, or you can make me a partner." So they made me a partner, and eventually, those guys all kind of bought out, and I created my own series of partners. So we were in the credit repair business. So credit repair means if you've got issues with your credit report and you want to improve them, you want to get your credit score up. How do you do that? And we ultimately decided that you could have an attorney help you improve your credit report. So that was all fine and good back in the horse and buggy days, you know, where we were still telemarketing and we were advertising in USA Today. Do you guys even know what USA Today is?
I do.
Of course.
That's
of
a really
course.
good talk show. I like that.
Yeah. Rosie O'Donnell used to be on that one.
Okay, it's none of those things. It's a newspaper. It's
Okay.
on paper. You can touch it.
Yeah.
Like
a
Wait.
note, like a
Wait,
like a iMac.
They
Is
print
that-
stuff on paper? Why would they do that? There's the internet.
I've heard about
Yeah,
that.
so you can read it. Well, while this was all happening, the internet came to be. So I'd been cycling through all kinds of business ventures within that business model, different partners, and we kind of discovered the internet for credit repair, and then they exploded from there. We had a number of partners. So when this thing finally grew to a level that a equity fund was super interested, and we sold, 12 guys in round numbers were made millionaires in the process. It was a smoking deal, and we'd sort of been at the right place at the right time with a very unsexy business.
A very unsexy business in the sense of it was credit repair, which involved attorneys, a lot of legality.
Yep, tons of regulation.
Right.
It wasn't super hot, fast cars and all that. Just it was work.
Right, and I think that's one of the stories that I really like to touch on, which is you weren't a millionaire instantly, and how many years of hard work went into building what you built, and what were you thinking during that time? Like, what was your objective?
It was 16 years from probably beginning to sale.
Okay.
So my objective was exactly what we achieved, was
Wow.
to come out of there with enough money to just do whatever the hell we wanted for the rest of our lives. And not just me, I wanted to take a bunch of people along with me for the ride. I wanted to create a straight up runway for a bunch of good folks to come in, kick ass, and then totally solve the financial question for their family for the rest of their lives.
And some of the things that you talk to us about in just business conversations are like truly interesting to me, because you didn't just play by the rules. You guys created a lot of systems that never existed in other businesses, and you literally just created them and said, I think this works well for the model that we're going with, like the tiered system and some other things with profit share turning into equity and things like that. And I was fascinated by it, because sometimes you think, oh, you just made a product that got big and sold. There's so much in the inner workings that you guys were doing that made it successful.
So it looked and felt a lot like BlackRifle Coffee Company. So we were in the business of not only making a shitload of money, but making awesome partners rich. So guys who'd show up and say, hey, you know what, go for it. There's your left, right limits, and we're going to give you a play. And so we invented essentially a business model, a legal model really, of corporation, where guys would eat what they hunt and kill for the rest of their lives. So they could come in and score big and go home with equity. And it wasn't equity per se. It wasn't that simple. They built their own equity from scratch and kind of got to keep whatever they made. And that's why when it all was over, I didn't have more than 50% of the company. I had a really nice chunk, but my partners scored big too. And it was exactly pro rata to what they'd created.
And that fosters like sheer effort, though. Like that's what it does, is it breeds somebody to take ownership and really go.
Performance-based reward, and it's pretty awesome, because you see a lot of businesses, and we've had this conversation before. We've all dealt with that in past endeavors and things where people have a sense of entitlement. Whatever the case, there's a family member that has a health issue, whatever, they just decide to walk away from the business, and there's not those equity like that they have and still maintain without doing anything in the company. So it's kind of cool. That model was really fucking interesting to me.
Yeah, and so equity sucks, because it's sort of like socialism. I mean, if you give somebody, you're like, oh, you're a great guy, let me give you some equity, then what you're saying is, I'm just betting on you. You're really not, you got the equity, rock and roll. Now, if some guys already killed it, like you and JT are already killing it over in Art 15ville, that's a different story. But when you're taking someone who's got a lot of go juice and some ideas, and you say, tell you what, you can build equity. Here you're gonna make all this money, and someday we will contract right now. Someday that will become equity if you kill it. And, in round numbers, maybe a third of the guys who had that deal pulled it off.
Right.
And 2/3 worked their way into a job or they just left.
Which is one of the fascinating traits or sayings that I picked up from Jay, which is how much value are you creating for the company or your partners today, which is create value within your silo. And if you can see something where you can create work and create value, well, go out and grab it. And I think, for us, we continue to live by that same trait. Like, all of us look at each other, myself, Matt, and JT, and all of us are just a little bit like apprehensive about taking a day off at times. Like, I knocked off a little early, and it's like, dude, it's 11 o'clock at night. Like, you should go home. Actually, it's like, well, but you're still here. It's like
it's a stalemate.
Yeah. So we're constantly working to outperform in a way each other, but it's a good competition. Like, we have a really fucking rad competition going.
But with that, it took a long time to find that dynamic. And would you say that in your endeavors, that was the same case? Because you just don't find people that want to be competitive in the business sense. We're not solely like individually being competitive, but my competitiveness benefits my business partners, and I thoroughly enjoy that because it's not like an individual approach. Obviously, I'm benefited, but like you said, it's how many millionaires can we make?
If we're all fighting every day to see who could make who could score the biggest deal for the company, like, everybody's winning.
Yeah. But you're right, man. It's like a personality driven thing. Some people are just born to work in government. Some people are just born to work in companies where it's all about seniority. Some people are born to work in companies that are highly political. It's all about whose ass you kiss. Other people are born, and there's no shame in any of this. Other people are born to work in highly value driven companies, so where it's nothing but the bottom line. You all look at each other and say, yeah, that was cool. How many views? How much money? How much did that turn in terms of sales? And it isn't that anyone here at BRCC is like a money grubber. You guys are incredibly generous, and as far as I can tell, you don't give a shit about money. But that is the big chip in the game. I mean, that's how you measure how much fun you're having and how much you're killing it in the value proposition.
Well, as long as the kids are fed,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for us, like, that's the great thing. I don't want to turn the conversation about us, but that's the one thing that we've really picked up, I think, along the way in the last 2.5 years is you created what I could see is you're building communities. You're building this community of people, whether it's in your business or your home. You're building this community of people around an idea or an objective. And I talk about this in our business, which is stole from you, which is, we create a positive ecosystem where it's one of success. It's one of positive, meaning you're creating positive value, not negative value. So if we get drugged down too many negative rabbit holes about, negative publicity or talking about other companies that have fucking somehow screwed us, like, that's just negative value. It becomes a lead weight. And the ecosystem that we try to create was directly stolen from you in the sense, or given from you to me, which is like, let's create an island of metrics driven success, but we have to have fun along the way, because nothing's going to keep you. If you're just kept in the office till midnight because it's money, that's probably the wrong fit for us in our community as far as like what we built here. You have to be kept here to create value.
And we lucked out though meeting him because his personality matches ours. I mean, even now, you're not a flashy car guy. You're not that's just not you. And that's not any of us either.
You're talking about culture fit.
Yeah.
You guys and everybody here, I know you've had people come in here that just was a bad culture fit, whether they're vets or not. A lot of times, especially from the SOF universe, you get a SOF universe, you guys get pretty good culture fit. You're starting off at least likely to be all about personal performance and thinking that's fun. We had a good culture fit. You guys were already, all three of you are already doing business a lot like I did business back in the day.
Well, and I picked up a few things. So, you talked about launching boats or canoes, right? Or was it canoes? That was the analogy, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I wrote a book nobody's ever read because, well,
it's long.
It's long. No, I wrote this book right at the end of right before I sold my company, and I just didn't want to be in business anymore.
I thought you didn't. But did you release it?
No.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Just to
Like
you guys.
I
just
remember.
to
I
me.
remember the last time you and I talked about it. You were just like, "Well, I wrote it, and then I just never released it."
Yeah, just give it to guys who are, vets in business or whatever. If they want to, hey, if you guys want to, bother these guys, I'll send them a PDF.
I never got a copy. I'll read it.
All right. I'll hold you to that. And then I'm going to quiz you. There will be a test afterwards.
I like
Fine
this.
me.
I want to be at that test.
So one of the things I said was launch canoes, not warships. So here's what jacks most people. I don't know if you guys swear on this, do you?
Yes, we
of
do.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's what fucks most people in business, and I've helped hundreds of people struggle with launching businesses. Here's what fucks most people: they're scared. They're afraid of looking like an idiot. All right. You guys get every time you guys launch something new, you're like, oh shit, are we going to get egg on our face here? And sometimes you do. And so most people are terrified of having an idea and then putting the idea out there in the real world and having the real world tell them, hey, bro, shit idea. And because that's horribly humiliating. Everyone knows you did it. Everyone knows you launched that shit. And then every time anybody asks, how's that going? You have to say, no, I'm sucking. Or tell them some bullshit story about what happened.
Right.
So everyone's so afraid of getting going. Well, here's what we do then. What most people do, they launch a warship. They'll take a year, 2 years to build their business launch or launch their new campaign. And only after 2 years do they find out if the market gave a crap or not, if the market liked it or not. Whereas you can launch canoes. So like you think of like the Spanish.
You build a canoe in a day.
You build a canoe in a day, and it goes out and think about the American Indians, like especially on the East Coast. They'd build all these canoes and just off they'd go out into the Caribbean. Most of them never came back. They just drowned and died. But these Indians, these Native American populations could send out these canoes all day long until they hit Cuba, till they hit Puerto Rico, till they hit, and then they come back and say, dude, we found this place where we can grow sugar cane and then we'll have rum. And then, whereas
Super funny analogy because like literally it's a test of the market space. And unknowingly we've done that with kind of BlackRifle and the coffee early on with Freedom Roasters and stuff where it was such a small launch with relatively zero capital investment. We're talking a couple $1,000s and just we'll see it. And we're like, there's a need and a want for this. So you're slowly growing instead of investing in, 50 shirts off the go. And they're like, your brand is fucking stupid, and
well, hey JT, let's do a rap battle, and arrange,
Right.
We'll do Army v Navy rap battle and we'll just see how much do we spend. Well, what have we got in our pocket, and
Right.
that's it. So also money is a big part of that when you launch canoes, as opposed to like a warship, where like the Spanish Empire was launching warships. It would really tax the Royal Treasury. They'd build this shit and then they'd send it off in a direction. And if it failed, it was horrendous. They lost some huge chunk of the Spanish net worth, whereas the Native Americans were launching canoes all day long. So don't be chicken shit. Launch canoes. Try a lot of stuff, knowing full well you will fail and you'll look stupid. But pretty soon one comes back and said, I just found gold over there.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, send more canoes that way. More canoes.
More canoes. Okay, build a warship this time.
Okay, build a warship now.
Spaceship. We want a spaceship.
And
We're going
that's
to build
kind
a
of like,
double-sided canoe.
we do that. We do that like every day. So even when we're doing our marketing, for instance, we'll have, gosh, man, I mean, ads and ads running in the
A/B
background.
testing. Or...
Well, it's A through Z. Like everybody's like, you A/B test. Nah, man, I ABC, and then it's like double A's and triple A's and quadruple A's. It's like, how many tests are you doing? I feel like most of the time in our business, all I'm doing is measuring. Like that's all I'm doing. So even in the fulfillment center that we have, we'll test a different configuration. We'll talk about time. We'll talk about savings. We'll talk about, is this shaving, a fraction of a cent or a cent off this package? How much tape are we using? What are the dimensions of the size of the box?
But when you say
everything.
that, half the guys who are listening are like, yeah, it's easy for you to say. You guys are already winners. You're already winners. I haven't done shit. So I haven't launched anything.
Right.
And guys like that come up to me and say, well, I don't have my own business. I work for Joe, down
Right.
the street, and I want to get my own thing going. Well, here's my idea. What should I do? How do I get my SBA loan and how do I get my business plan done? I'm
Right.
like, don't do any of that shit. I stole this from Fight Club. I said, do this. Okay, here, just close your eyes. Imagine that some dude comes up to you and says, whoever you love the most in the world, your child, your sister, your wife, I have them captive, and I'm going to, you'll never see them again. You'll never see them again because they'll be dead and under the ground. Unless you take this business idea you have with the money you have in your pocket and you make $500 off that business's idea by the end of the week.
Right.
I say, open your eyes. What would you do if some dude dropped that on you right now? Well, I don't know. I don't have any money and I don't have a business plan. And shut up about all that. You're going to lose your sister or your mom. What will you do? And they're like, well, I guess I would do this and then this and then this and this and this. Would you stay up all night? Yeah, I would. And I would launch this and that. And I have $200 in my pocket and I'd spend all of that doing this and that. And I'm like, do that. And you'll be 1,000% smarter by the end of the week.
Yep.
And we hear that a lot. We hear that from vets, like, how do I get funding? How do I get this? How do I get that? I'm like, bro, you know, we wrote our first business plan from the 5-paragraph op order, which we've talked about quite a few times. You know, we started BlackRifle Coffee with $1,800 because I wanted to see literally what was the least amount of money that I could put into a company and really try to make a positive return on my investment. And we hear that. The first thing that I said the other day, which was directly echoing what you've talked about to me, which is guys are always looking for funding for their ideas. They're saying, I need money to make this idea possible. Well, I was prepared to go door to door, like, here, knock on doors, give out leaflets, like, hey man, you should try this or you should try that. When we signed into Ready Man with Jay, I was signed in to learn from Jay. That's like literally I was signed into the program, for a lack of a better word.
University of Jay Orvis.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Like I enjoyed the product. I still do to this day. But really, when I boil it down or I distill it to a primary motivation, which was how do I find a monetarily feasible option to feed my family outside of the government? And that was the objective, which was the same thing that you just talked about.
When you talk about SBA loans, you know, guys are just building warships because they're afraid to go on the thing they've got in their mind, and they've telling themselves that they need all this money to do it. Money makes you stupid. Having funding makes you stupid. If you go back and look at the early days of Ready Man when we were putting funding, we were just being stupid. The moment there was no funding, we got smart. I should say Jeff got smart. Rock and roll. Funding is invariably, every business I've ever launched made us stupid, and the lack of funding has made us smart.
Well, I think is when you have money, it makes things easier, whether than you have to be crafty when you have no money. It's the same thing in the analogy you were just making. That person has to think about what is my course of action going to be to better my product, to better my brand, and all those things. Whereas if you have money, say, okay, here's my product, hope you like it. And that's a dangerous business, you know. I think that can work for content, you know, marketing and building a brand and product. It's across the board.
Well, I think there's an importance to that too, which is, you know, when you're starving, you're going to find food.
Exactly. And,
you know, that's just the way it goes. Like, I mean, I was starving, and I'm not going to lie. Like, it was a tough year and a half. Like, it was a really tough year and a half. It's not over. I'm not like, we're by no means have we like, you know, said, hey, we're out of here. We're just at the point now, quite literally, BlackRifle just started paying salaries to the executives in this company, meaning like myself, Matt, and Jared, 6 months ago.
I think last
July.
Yeah. So when we talk about like we were starving, like I'd driven all the savings out of my account. I'd sold both homes that my wife and I had owned. Like we were prepared to take this to the end, and my family was prepared. I was prepared. Matt and JT, everybody, we were prepared to take it to the end, and we weren't going to stop at, okay, well, this is good enough. Well, we couldn't even afford to be stupid. You can't even waste $1. Everybody's like, well, you know, you can spend all this. You got 10% of your, you know, gross revenue in order to invest into marketing. And then it's like, well, not really. Not if that doesn't return with more money than I've just spent, because I can't afford to spend it. And so starving will make you smart. So how many years were you starving before you started even paying yourself?
I was starving for about 15 years.
Yeah.
Barely,
wow.
You know, just barely, you know, making $10 an hour for my time as an entrepreneur. 50. I mean, you guys showed up after already having had careers. This was the beginning of my career. I was a dumb kid, like the dumbest kid you got here, just fresh out of high school, you know, packing boxes. That was me. And I started in business there. So, yeah, if you think this is going to be easy, or when you look at guys who've made a lot of money, you think it's going to be easy, it's fun. You know, it's the best game in town. If you're there playing, role playing games on your computer, this is a way better game. The game of business and seeing what the market wants and what it'll pay you for.
Well, and the rewards are way bigger. So when you do have the successes, and especially when you have good people and your friends, where we can look at each other and we can say that was great. You guys did awesome, and you really mean it. You really want to see I have a vested interest in seeing Matt and JT succeed, and everybody that's involved in this company, to include the guys that work for the company. I love them. I love the company. I love them. I go to work every day. I tell those people all the time. It's I don't go to work for myself. I go to work for my family and my friends. And I know if my performance is making them happy, they're going to be happy. And meaning they're going to be happy with me. So I weigh that and the fact it's if Matt tells me he's fucking happy with my performance, my wife's I don't want to kill you today, I'm all right. I get back up, put my pants on, and go to work.
I had a bad joke in there, but I'll just leave it alone.
Sometimes I do wear my pants to bed. Yeah. Is that what it was?
No.
Well, did we, we could talk about this. We try to keep them down to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And
we got a couple minutes.
Okay. We got a couple minutes. I
want to go what was it like the first time you saw $1 million?
Yeah.
What is that like?
You know what? It's just numbers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I say that and everyone's like, oh, whatever. It's a lot of numbers. What was even cooler, I don't even remember the first $1 million. I remember the first time I cut myself a profit check.
Right.
I remember that day. I remember the little bookkeeper gal saying, hey, we've got 20 grand left over after this month. And saying, oh, I guess this is the moment where we just made a profit, and start writing, write this much check to this guy and then me, and then do it. And she wrote this check, and I'm looking at this check, and my immediate thought is, I can fucking do this.
That's awesome.
And dude, that is the juice. I mean, it wasn't about it wasn't about, taking that money home was amazing. Right. And the business started growing, and I was living in this little tiny home. And within 7 months, I was paying cash for a McMansion.
Right.
Because we found the secret sauce. And after launching 10 zillion canoes, we finally found oh my God, these are coming back, and they're coming back faster and faster. And we're building bigger and bigger boats. And next thing you know, I'm paying $700,000 cash for a home. And that's pretty amazing. I mean, and then all the space, that 15 years was amazing too.
Because that's a whole different, you successfully jumped a class there. It's from where you came from, just like us, we've never walked into a car dealership, or we've never walked into a realtor and then, cater to us because they know we're going to hand them a briefcase full of cash for whatever it is that we're getting. So, I mean,
that's America, though. I mean, that's totally possible. It's totally possible in America to take huge risks. And make no mistake, you're not risking capital. You're risking self-esteem. You're risking looking like a dipshit. And that costs you more than anything, really. If you get honest with yourself, it's not the money that you're blowing. It's looking the fool. That's going to slow you down. But if you're willing to look the fool in America, and you're willing to, go balls out, you can win big. And every time, in our little special snowflake society, people complain about entrepreneurs and complain about corporate types. I'm like, these are the motherfuckers who are willing to risk big and look stupid big. They pay the price.
Would that be your main advice, that as an entrepreneur, no matter what level you're at, there's always going to be some sort of trepidation going into that? They just fucking do it. Send the canoe and try it.
Yeah, you're never gonna not have the possibility of failure.
I mean, I've never had kids, but I feel like it's that. It's just, you're never gonna really be ready to have a kid. You just got to man up and see if you're gonna be a good dad. Congratulations, Jim, back there, the new one.
Yeah,
isn't that life?
Yeah.
You wake up, and in business gets you. You're stress inoculated. After a while, you're like, fuck it, I'm doing this. Because the last, you get to the point where you're like, no, I'm willing to look the fool, because I looked the fool 45 times in order to be a millionaire.
Right.
And I'm going to keep doing it. So it builds on itself. You get stress inoculated to it eventually, but there's that first few times you're just like, fuck it, man, I'm going to take this risk and I'm going to go for it and I'm going to look stupid, maybe or not.
I like it.
But it's like, I mean, it's funny because there were times I remember I had to buy food on my Star card.
Nice.
Like, because there
Hell
was
yeah.
nothing in my account.
And we all know what that food was.
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
Every hot dog I could get my hand on.
Well, I think we'll bring Jay back for round 2, and we'll talk
I
about.
think we have like round 9 with him.
I think
We'll
we do. I mean, there's a. We
Fuck
could
it, let's go
literally
boxing
take,
match, 12 rounds. You know,
Yeah,
we can take pieces. This is just the introduction to Jay Orvis.
Yep.
He's got a lot of institutional knowledge. He's got a lot of things that he can talk about on Blackhearted. So expect at least 3 more episodes from Jay. Thanks a lot, man. We definitely appreciate having
always
you
a
here.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
I'm gonna go launch some canoes.
Salt Lake City. This is Blackhearted.
Black Rifle Coffee Company, along with Arson Wave, would like to thank you for tuning in to Blackhearted. Have a great fucking day.